I had never liked Nova Citadel. To the rest of the galaxy, it was the greatest diplomatic station ever built, where hundreds of civilizations gathered beneath one roof to preserve peace. To me, it felt like a monument to power disguised as justice. As the Terran shuttle docked, I adjusted my ambassador's uniform and stepped into corridors lined with delegates from species older than humanity itself. They barely acknowledged my presence. We were the youngest member of the Galactic Council, given observer status but little influence. Our seat in the Grand Assembly Chamber sat near the back, a quiet reminder that Earth was expected to watch, not speak. Above us, the crystal dome reflected distant stars while representatives from ancient empires filled the chamber. They believed their laws had kept order for thousands of years. Few questioned their authority. When the speaker struck the ceremonial staff against the floor, silence swept through the hall. The council is now in session. None of us realized history was about to change forever. I remained standing as the speaker unfolded a black crystal scroll, a symbol reserved for the council's highest judgments. The atmosphere in the chamber changed instantly. Conversations vanished. Even the oldest delegates lowered their eyes. The council has concluded its investigation into Princess Lena Carter of the Kingdom of Asterion. A holographic image appeared above the central platform. Lena stood in ceremonial white robes, her expression calm despite the chains around her wrists. She looked nothing like the dangerous revolutionary described in countless reports. She looked like a ruler refusing to kneel. The accused is found guilty of high treason against the Galactic Order. A murmur rolled through the chamber. The speaker continued without hesitation. Her repeated challenges to the Council's authority over planetary succession, combined with the dissemination of forbidden claims regarding Council conduct, constitute an attack upon the foundation of interstellar law. I tightened my grip on the armrest. Forbidden claims, not false claims. The distinction was impossible to ignore. The sentence, the speaker declared, shall be carried out immediately. The chamber became so quiet I could hear the faint hum of the gravity projectors beneath the floor. Princess Lena Carter will be transported to the forbidden desert of Vesper 9 and buried alive beneath the Crimson Dunes. There she will remain until the desert claims her. Several delegates bowed their heads in solemn approval. Others nodded as if the punishment were nothing more than another legal procedure. A projection of Vesper 9 replaced Lena's image. Endless scarlet sand stretched beyond the horizon beneath a blazing white sun. Every child in the galaxy knew its reputation. No settlement existed there. No rescue missions were permitted. Exile to Vesper 9 was not simply execution, it was erasure. The speaker raised his staff once more. Let all civilizations understand this judgment. His voice echoed through the chamber. Any individual, government, or military force that interferes with the lawful execution of this sentence shall be recognized as an enemy of the Galactic Council and treated accordingly. The warning lingered in the silence. Around me, delegates quietly approved the ruling. I remained motionless. For the first time since arriving on Nova Citadel, I had the unmistakable feeling that justice had just left the room. No applause followed the sentence. There was only quiet acceptance, the kind that settles over a room where everyone has convinced themselves that obedience is the same as justice. Around me, delegates resumed their conversations as if they had just approved a trade agreement instead of condemning a living woman to a slow death beneath an alien sun. I remained seated. Every instinct told me to stand, yet years of diplomacy had taught me that timing mattered more than outrage. A careless protest would change nothing except the number of enemies humanity possessed. Councillor Varric leaned toward me with a satisfied smile. You humans have been unusually quiet today. We are listening, I answered. A wise decision. Young civilizations often confuse emotion with law. I met his gaze without replying. Across the chamber, representatives signed the execution order one by one. Ancient seals glowed above the central platform before disappearing into the council archives. With every signature, the sentence became harder to challenge. A courier drone crossed the hall carrying a crimson data cylinder. Vesper 9. The execution had already been scheduled. No appeal, no independent investigation, no final hearing. Everything had been decided before this session even began. That realization settled heavily in my mind. This gathering had never been about justice. It had been about making the verdict look unanimous. I glanced toward the small Terran delegation. My advisors waited silently, watching me instead of the speaker. They knew me well enough to recognize the difference between patience and surrender. One of them gave the slightest shake of his head. Not yet. I understood. Humanity was still considered an insignificant observer. Most delegates barely remembered we occupied seats in this chamber. They expected us to leave quietly after the ceremony and accept another reminder of our place in galactic politics. They had no idea that I had already made my decision. I rose slowly from my seat. Hundreds of conversations stopped at once. Every eye in the chamber turned toward me. For a heartbeat, no one seemed to understand what they were seeing. Humanity did not interrupt council proceedings. Humanity observed, recorded, and quietly accepted decisions made by older civilizations. That was the role assigned to us when we joined the Galactic Council. I stepped away from my seat and walked toward the central platform. No guards moved to stop me. They were too surprised. The speaker watched my approach with measured curiosity, while delegates exchanged puzzled glances. A few even smiled, expecting an inexperienced ambassador to make an emotional plea that would be dismissed within minutes. When I reached the platform, I looked across the sea of alien faces. Hundreds of civilizations. Thousands of years of history. Enough political power to shape the fate of entire star systems. I drew a slow breath. My name is Ambassador Daniel Hayes of the Terran Federation. The chamber remained silent. I have listened carefully to today's proceedings. I let my eyes rest on the black crystal scroll containing Princess Lena Carter's sentence. I have listened to accusations. I looked toward the speaker. I have listened to your verdict. Then I raised my head. But I have not heard undeniable proof. A ripple of whispers spread through the chamber. I continued before anyone could interrupt. Humanity recognizes the authority of law. We recognize the necessity of order. We recognize that no civilization can survive without justice. I paused. But justice cannot exist where evidence is replaced by obedience. Several delegates shifted uneasily. Councillor Varick folded his arms, his earlier confidence fading into irritation. I spoke more clearly, ensuring every translator carried my words to every corner of Nova Citadel. They buried the princess alive. My voice echoed beneath the crystal dome. And humanity challenged the entire Galactic Council. The silence that followed felt almost physical. No one laughed. No one moved. For the first time since the session began, the ancient powers of the galaxy looked at humanity not as spectators, but as a civilization willing to stand alone. The silence shattered. Laughter rolled through the chamber, louder than before, echoing beneath the crystal dome until it drowned every other sound. Delegates struck their desks in amusement while translators struggled to keep pace with the flood of mocking remarks. To them, I had not delivered a warning. I had become the evening's entertainment. Councillor Varick rose first, his broad shoulders shaking with laughter. "You challenge the Galactic Council?" he asked between measured breaths. Humanity has mistaken courage for importance. Several delegates applauded. Another representative pointed toward me with one of her 6 slender arms. "You are a young species with a handful of colonies. Do you truly believe your government can oppose every civilization gathered in this chamber?" More laughter followed. The speaker struck his ceremonial staff against the floor. "Order." The room quieted, though countless smiles remained. "Ambassador Hayes," he said, "your objection has been heard and officially recorded. The Council rejects it unanimously. The sentence against Princess Lena Carter will proceed without delay." "I expected that answer," I replied. His expression hardened. "Then you should also expect the consequences of your words." A military delegate stepped forward, the polished armor of the Council Security Directorate gleaming beneath the chamber lights. "Let the record show," he announced, that any Terran vessel attempting to interfere with the lawful execution on Vesper 9 will be considered hostile. Any human citizen aiding the condemned princess will share her fate. The threat spread across the chamber like a wave. Some delegates nodded with satisfaction. Others watched me carefully, waiting for fear. They found none. I straightened my uniform and looked from one ancient empire to the next. History remembers governments that confuse authority with justice, I said calmly. It rarely remembers them kindly. Counselor Varick smiled. History is written by those who survive. I held his gaze. Then I suggest you survive what comes next. This time, no one laughed. Not because they believed me. Because, for the first time, they wondered whether humanity knew something they did not. While the council celebrated its own certainty, I knew nothing of the man walking alone across the dunes of Vesper 9. His name was Noah Brooks. Long before he became the center of a galactic manhunt, he had been a rescue specialist for the Terran Emergency Response Corps. He was the kind of man who noticed broken footprints, disturbed sand, and the faintest hint that someone had survived where survival seemed impossible. He had come to Vesper 9 for an entirely different reason. Ancient ruins lay buried beneath the Crimson Dunes, remnants of a civilization older than the Council itself. Noah had spent 3 weeks surveying the abandoned structures, mapping collapsed tunnels and cataloging forgotten technology. He worked alone because he preferred silence to conversation. The desert offered plenty of both. That afternoon, the wind changed. He stopped walking. Years of rescue work had taught him that instinct often recognized danger before reason could explain it. Something about the pattern of the drifting sand felt wrong. It rose unevenly, circling a single point instead of moving with the wind. Noah climbed the nearest ridge. At first, he saw nothing except endless crimson dunes shimmering beneath the white sun. Then he noticed a human hand. Barely visible, half buried. He sprinted downhill without hesitation. As he reached the spot, more of the sand collapsed away, revealing a young woman trapped to her neck. Her lips were cracked from dehydration, and dried blood marked one side of her face, but her eyes were still open. She was alive. Noah dropped his equipment and began digging with both hands. He never asked who she was. He never wondered why she had been left there. None of that mattered. Someone needed saving. That was enough. The scorching sand tore at his skin as he dug faster, ignoring the heat that burned through his gloves. Every second mattered. Every handful of sand brought her one breath closer to freedom. Neither of them realized that satellites high above Vesper 9 had already seen him. And somewhere inside the Council's security network, alarms had begun to sound. I did not learn what happened on Vesper 9 until much later. Every detail came from reports, satellite recordings, and Noah Brooks himself. By then, the Council had already labeled him a criminal. After nearly an hour of digging, Noah finally pulled Princess Lena Carter free from the crushing weight of the desert. She collapsed into the burning sand, too weak to stand, while he handed her the last of his water without asking a single question. "Drink," he said quietly. She obeyed. Only after her breathing steadied did he speak again. "Can you walk?" She nodded once. "Then we leave now." Noah knew the execution site would be monitored. If someone had buried her alive, someone would eventually return to confirm she was dead. Remaining there meant capture. They disappeared into a maze of abandoned research canyons where ancient stone structures offered shelter from the relentless sun. Inside one of the ruins, Lena finally told him who she was. "I uncovered archives," she whispered. "Records the Council buried centuries ago." Noah listened without interrupting. They manipulated royal successions. They started wars to remove governments they couldn't control. Entire elections were fabricated. Anyone who found the truth disappeared. She looked down at her trembling hands. "They buried me because I refused to destroy the evidence." Noah remained silent for several seconds. When he finally answered, his voice carried the calm certainty of a man who had already reached a decision. "Then we hide." Lena stared at him in disbelief. "They hunt us across the galaxy." "I know." They, kill anyone who helps us. I know. So why stay? He checked the charge on his emergency transmitter before meeting her eyes. Because rescuing you wasn't the hard part. He activated the encrypted beacon. The hard part is making sure they never do this to anyone else. The signal raced silently toward human space. Within minutes, Terran diplomats, intelligence officers, and forensic specialists began receiving the same message. Priority 1. The princess is alive. The Council is hiding something. The emergency beacon reached Earth long before the Council realized it had been transmitted. Humanity never relied on a single communication route. Noah's signal was fragmented, encrypted, and scattered across dozens of civilian satellites before being quietly reassembled inside the Terran Intelligence Directorate. By the time the Council attempted to trace it, the message had already reached every person who needed to read it. Noah and Lena continued deeper into the abandoned research complex beneath Vesper 9. Ancient corridors carved into black stone shielded them from orbital scans, while forgotten laboratories offered temporary shelter. Dust covered everything, but the security systems had long since failed, leaving behind silent vaults that no one had entered for centuries. Lena stopped beside a sealed doorway marked with symbols older than the Galactic Council. The archives are beneath this facility, she said. When I found them, I copied only a fraction before they discovered what I was doing. Noah examined the reinforced entrance. Can you still open it? I think so. She placed her hand against a weathered control panel. For several seconds nothing happened. Then hidden machinery groaned to life, and the massive door slowly began to slide open. Before either of them could step inside, Noah's communicator vibrated. A single sentence appeared. Council security has declared you hostile. Seconds later another message followed. Bounty authorized. Dead or alive. Noah looked at Lena without surprise. I expected that. Far above them, emergency broadcasts spread across the galaxy. Every registered bounty office received identical orders. Noah Brooks and Princess Lena Carter were to be captured immediately. Any individual providing food, shelter, transportation, or medical assistance would be prosecuted as an enemy of the Council. At the same time, 3 unmarked Terran reconnaissance ships quietly entered the Vesper sector with their transponders disabled. They transmitted no warnings, made no public announcements, and ignored every request for identification. Their mission was simple: locate Noah, protect Lena, recover the evidence before the Council erased it forever. The race for the truth had begun, and neither side intended to lose. I would later discover that the greatest weapon in the galaxy was not hidden inside a battleship. It was hidden inside the truth. The vault stretched for kilometers beneath the surface of Vesper 9. Rows of crystalline memory columns disappeared into the darkness, each one preserving records so old that even the Galactic Council had erased their existence from official history. Noah swept his flashlight across the chamber. So this is what they were afraid of. Lena nodded. They buried entire civilizations with these records. She approached one of the ancient terminals and connected the encrypted storage crystal she had managed to save before her arrest. The dormant systems awakened one by one, filling the vast chamber with pale blue light. Files began appearing across the display. Council Session 4112. Succession Override Orders. Operation Silent Crown. Noah's expression remained calm as he read. This isn't corruption, he said quietly. This is an operating manual. Lena opened another archive. The recording showed Council representatives secretly ordering the assassination of a planetary monarch who had refused to surrender mineral rights. Another file revealed fabricated evidence used to justify an interstellar war that claimed billions of lives. Dozens more documented manipulated elections, falsified investigations, and rulers removed because they threatened the Council's authority. Everything she had claimed was true. Noah immediately activated his encrypted communicator. Brooks to Terran Command. The reply came within seconds. Receiving. We found it all. Can you verify authenticity? Noah connected the archive directly to the secure channel. You tell me. On Earth, Hundreds of intelligence analysts, forensic specialists, and historians examined the incoming files simultaneously. Digital signatures, quantum timestamps, biological authorizations, and security seals matched perfectly. Nothing had been forged. The evidence was genuine. At the same time, Terran cyber specialists quietly infiltrated the Council's communication network. They copied transmission routes, mapped security protocols, and prepared a broadcast capable of reaching every inhabited system at once. Meanwhile, human diplomats met privately with neutral governments. They asked for no military support. Only one favor: delay your fleets. Give us 1 day. If the evidence is real, the diplomats promised, the galaxy will judge the Council for itself. I was still inside Nova Citadel when every screen in the chamber suddenly went black. The emergency session had been reconvened to discuss the hunt for Noah Brooks and Princess Lena Carter. Council leaders spoke confidently, assuring every member civilization that the fugitives would soon be captured and the stolen archives destroyed. Then the transmission failed. The speaker frowned. "Restore the signal." Technicians rushed to their consoles, but before anyone could respond, the screens flickered back to life. No council insignia appeared. Instead, Noah Brooks stood beside Princess Lena Carter inside the ancient archive beneath Vesper 9. Neither of them looked frightened. Noah faced the camera first. "My name is Noah Brooks, citizen of the Terran Federation. The woman beside me is Princess Lena Carter." The Galactic Council declared her guilty without presenting evidence. He stepped aside. "We're about to present ours." The chamber fell silent. Across the galaxy, billions of citizens watched the same transmission. Every inhabited system, every government office, every civilian network, and every military command center received the identical broadcast simultaneously. One archive after another filled the screens. Secret recordings, forged intelligence reports, orders authorizing political assassinations, manipulated elections, illegal succession decrees, entire wars approved to eliminate governments that refused council control. Every file carried verified security signatures. Every timestamp matched official council records. No forgery, no manipulation, only truth. Princess Lena stepped forward. "I was sentenced because I refused to destroy these records. They buried me alive so no one would ever see them." The speaker leapt to his feet. "Terminate this transmission immediately." His technicians tried. Nothing happened. Human cyber specialists had quietly taken control of the Council's communication network hours earlier. Every attempt to disconnect the signal only duplicated it across additional channels. Noah looked directly into the camera. The Council believed killing one innocent woman would protect centuries of lies. He paused. Instead, they exposed themselves before the entire galaxy. For several long seconds, no one spoke. History had just changed, and there was no system powerful enough to erase what every civilization had already seen. I watched the chamber descend into chaos. The moment Noah's transmission ended, every representative began speaking at once. Some demanded the immediate arrest of the speaker. Others denied the authenticity of the archives despite the verification seals that every intelligence service in the galaxy had already confirmed. The unity that had defined the Galactic Council for centuries vanished in less than a minute. Then the first resignation arrived. The representative of the Hesperian Union removed the council insignia from his robe and placed it on the central platform. "My government withdraws its support from this administration, effective immediately." He walked out without waiting for permission. He was not the last. One delegation after another abandoned the chamber. Military commanders refused orders issued by officials whose signatures now appeared in the leaked archives. Entire fleets declared political neutrality until independent investigations could be completed. Across dozens of worlds, security forces surrounded government buildings and arrested council-appointed governors before they could destroy additional evidence. News networks broadcast the images without interruption. For centuries, the council had ruled through certainty. Now it ruled through panic. My communicator vibrated continuously as reports poured in from every sector. Member worlds were opening classified vaults. Royal families once accused of treason had been officially exonerated. Governments demanded emergency elections supervised by neutral observers instead of council inspectors. The empire of fear was collapsing under the weight of its own secrets. I looked across the nearly empty chamber. The same delegates who had laughed at humanity only hours earlier now argued over escape routes and emergency asylum. None of them spoke about justice anymore. They spoke about survival. One message finally reached my secure channel. Princess Lena Carter officially cleared of all charges. Seconds later, another followed. Council military command has fractured. Illegal orders no longer recognized. I closed my communicator and quietly left the chamber. The council believed they had buried one innocent princess beneath the sands of Vesper 9. Instead, they had buried their own legitimacy. And this time, no one was coming to dig them out. I returned to the chamber the following morning expecting to find another struggle for power. Instead, I found something far more dangerous. An empty throne. The speaker had disappeared during the night. Several senior council officials had been arrested by their own governments, while others fled into uncharted space hoping to escape the investigations spreading across the galaxy. Without its leadership, the Galactic Council no longer existed. It was merely a building filled with frightened politicians. Many delegates turned toward me as I entered. For the first time since humanity had joined the council, they were waiting for us to speak. One representative finally broke the silence. Earth has the strongest position now. Another nodded. If the Terran Federation wishes to lead the galaxy, no one can stop it. I looked around the chamber. Power was being offered to us without a single shot being fired. It would have been easy to accept. Too easy. I stepped onto the central platform where the old speaker had delivered Princess Lena's sentence only days before. Humanity did not expose the truth to replace one empire with another, I said calmly. We did not rescue Princess Lena to build a Terran council. The delegates listened without interruption. Power without accountability created this disaster. I activated my datapad, projecting a new document above the chamber. The new Galactic Charter. Its principles were simple. Every civilization would receive equal representation regardless of military strength. No ruler could be condemned without independently verified evidence. A permanent interstellar court would operate separately from every government. All council proceedings would be publicly recorded and preserved. No law would ever again exist beyond public scrutiny. I looked across the chamber one last time. If the galaxy accepts these principles, I said, humanity will stand beside you. But we will never stand above you. This time, no one laughed. One by one, the delegates rose from their seats. Not in submission, in agreement. I stood among thousands of witnesses as Princess Lena Carter walked through the gates of her royal palace once more. The banners of Asterion, lowered after her conviction, rose again above the capital, carried by a wind that no longer smelled of fear. The people who had believed their ruler dead now welcomed her home with tears instead of silence. There were no grand speeches. Lena simply accepted the crown of Asterion and took the oath she had been denied. I will rule by truth, she said, and no citizen of this kingdom will ever again be condemned without evidence. Across the galaxy, the new Galactic Charter was signed one government after another. Independent courts replaced secret tribunals. Public archives opened their doors. The age of hidden judgments had finally ended. Yet one person was missing from every celebration. Noah Brooks. Reporters searched every major world, hoping for an interview with the man whose decision to save a stranger had changed history. Governments offered him medals, fortunes, and high office. Even Princess Lena personally invited him to serve as her chief advisor. He declined every offer. Weeks later, I received a brief message from a rescue station on the edge of Terran space. Noah Brooks has returned to active rescue duty. No ceremony, no announcement, no explanation. When I finally asked him why, he smiled the same quiet smile recorded in the desert of Vesper 9. I didn't save a princess, he told me. I saved a person. Someone else will need help tomorrow. I'd rather be there than standing on a stage. That was the last time I saw him. History remembered Noah Brooks as the man who challenged an empire. He remembered himself as a rescue specialist who simply never stopped doing his job. I attended the first session of the new Galactic Assembly as nothing more than an observer. Beside me sat an elderly alien historian, his hands trembling as he wrote the final entry of the old era. For thousands of years, he read aloud, we believed laws alone created justice. We trusted institutions more than truth. Then one ordinary human crossed a desert to save someone every empire had abandoned. He paused before writing the last lines. We buried a princess alive, believing fear would preserve our power. Instead, humanity challenged the entire Galactic Council and reminded the galaxy of something we had forgotten. He looked toward me with tired eyes. Justice does not begin with governments. It begins with one person who refuses to walk away. He closed the archive, and with that, an empire ended.